All right, it's Friday. We're back at the mine. Gonna be stockpiling a little bit of sand while everybody's gone. Of course, you know the regular crew, they leave at 2 on Fridays. Which leaves me and Miss Brenda here. So I'm gonna try to knock this pile down a little bit. That way I'm not running around racing on Monday. Cause this little loader, I like these 972s, they're real nice. And they're real popular in the yard. But they're good for loading trucks. But it's not the best application for stockpiling material. I'm not saying that it can't do the job, just saying that if you're gonna be running bucket after bucket after bucket of material, it's probably best to have, you know, an 8 or 9 yard bucket, which I think this is a 7. I always get confused on the yardage. I know that I can pull on a real good full bucket is about 9.5 tons of sand. About 8 tons of 8s and about 8 tons of 57s. So whatever that equates to in yardage. I know the 982 that I'm supposed to be getting, but not sure if I'm getting. Definitely gonna have a bigger bucket, which, you know, these, if you're loading trucks, it's one bucket after another bucket after another bucket. You know, you can move some material, but if you gotta run, you know, on the other side of the yard, or in this case, up and down the ramps, you lose a lot of time. And as much material as we run through the day, it would sure be nice if we can get a bigger yard loader, but I don't know if that's going to come to fruition or not. So this is pretty much my day right here, is running up and down the ramp, up and down, up and down, up and down. Which, it's not a terrible haul. It could be a lot worse. Myself a little hole here. Been catching a couple views. People are interested in this kind of work, believe it or not. I mean, I was taught how to run a loader, so to speak, but when it comes to running like the cat scales and other stuff, I learned all that on YouTube. You can get on there and figure out, you know, what buttons do what. I mean, it's a great tool. But I actually learned how to run a loader. Luckily, my dad and we worked at the same company, and he was able to show me some things, which was kind of nice, because then I was able to take that knowledge and then, you know, further my career over at not just that mine, but this is my 3rd mine that I've been at. And so I was a dredge operator at my last job. Which was fun. It was nice being out on the water. But they wanted me to work nights. And I told them when I first got hired on that I wasn't very interested in doing that. And they did it to me anyway. So, started looking, drove past this place. And this mine is sat dormant for, I don't know, 20 plus years. When I was working down the road from this place, the owner had actually purchased all the standing material that the Shelley company had left here, which is the parent company to the one I work for now. They left probably 100, way more than that. Probably 1,000, 2,000 tons of 304, maybe even more. I mean, it was a lot. We worked all summer hauling that pile of 304 away. I mean, it was enormous. It was every bit the size of the sand stockpile, the 8 stockpile, and the 57 stockpile that you see on the ground here. It was massive. Plus, there was a giant pile of 3. None of this stuff was here. None of it. Absolutely none of it. It was just an open pit. That's all it was. And there was a big 310 pile back where the crusher is back there, big heaped up. So we took the 304 that was stacked up back there behind me and the 310 pile. Like I said, the owner from down the road, he purchased all the standing material. Didn't get any mining rights, but bought all the material that was sitting on the ground. And that was back in 2013, 14. And there's actually another mine. It's old, like from the 60s and 70s, across the road, and it goes down about 80 feet. There's a bunch of ponds down there. It's private property now. It's actually like a little vacation spot. The guy who bought it uses the ponds to, you know, fish, and I'm sure kids and grandkids, and it's like it's got a little party house down there. But on the back side of that property, there's still a bunch of sand from the old mine. Apparently the story goes that they, back in the 60s, 70s, all they wanted was the gravel out of here, like 57s, 8s, stuff like that. They didn't want any of the sand, and they hauled it all out by rail car. There's actually there's rail line way on the other side over there, and it was all shipped out via rail, which is kind of interesting. So they mined the ponds that are on the other side of the road, hauled it all out by rail, and the spoilage, or what they considered spoilage, was the sand, and they just mounded it up. I mean, there's tens of thousands of tons of sand on the back of this property. So we were here across the road, and basically my job was to come in a dump truck and load myself and haul the material down the road to the mine that I used to work at. And we used the sand as fill sand. We used the 304 as it is, just extra 304, and the 310 got sent back through the wash plant and cleaned and separated. 310 is like, it's like sand and nines, I think, is basically what that is real gritty, large particle sand is what 310 is. As far as like application, I don't know if it's got any construction application just as 310, or what, you know, what the deal is with that. But so yeah, that's pretty much how I learned to run loader. Was my dad showed me the ins and outs, and know, kind of just self-taught really. And that was in an old 980B, 980B, a 980F, and then when I got good at that, they moved me to the 980H, which is actually, we have an H. It's sitting right there on the other side of the excavator, in between the haul, or right there next to the excavator. So that's pretty much same thing right there, and that's what they use to feed the plant down the road. So got to do a little bit of that. And yeah. And you know, just like some things do, it just didn't work out. But kept the experience, and that experience ended up getting me in the door at my last job as the dredge operator, because I had equipment experience. So, and then the dredge operator position, it's not like a hard thing to do, but it's not very common job experience to have. So I think that landed me the job here. There's no doubt about it. When I told him I was a dredge operator, he asked me to go on the other side of Ohio and run a suction dredge over at Buckeye Lake, and I told him that I wasn't going to be driving, you know, an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, you know, staying in a hotel. I wasn't interested in that. Said they needed a yard loader here, and here we are. But yeah, I mean, coming full circle, if it wasn't for YouTube, I wouldn't know how to run like the, oh, there he is. Yeah, you snuck in on me there. No, I did not. My radio doesn't reach out too far.
I can still hear you 2 miles down the road.
Oh, really?
Huh?
Now you got a good antenna. No overloads today. Had one yesterday. It was actually Dan here, overloaded him. He's pretty cool about it. Just part of the business. It's the way things go sometimes. It's really frowned upon with my boss and the management. They don't like it at all. I think it's kind of funny how when I was a dump truck driver, I was telling these guys, I mean, it's an everyday occurrence, multiple times a day. You know, 3 or 4 times a day you get overloaded. Just the nature of the beast. The last guy who was here, man, I tell you what, he cut the hell out of this floor. It is real rough. I'm trying to do what I can to fix it, but as much water as the plant puts down, it's kind of hard. Plus, you know, the pit in here itself wasn't exactly level. I mean, you could see that the plant's up on an elevated terrain, I guess that's what you want to call it. So it's not like it was all flat ground to begin with. But all the drivers are pretty cool. They get paid hourly, so they don't get real too worked up about being overloaded, because they're getting paid one way or the other. It really doesn't matter to them. But my boss does not like it at all, and that's kind of why the other guy got more or less relieved. And so, yeah, it's not exactly the most ideal conditions for loading trucks, that's for dang sure. We'll see if we can hit this without going over. These scales are so... I'd like to sit here and say that there's a lot of skill involved, but to be honest with you, most of the time I'm really just guessing and crossing fingers. That's pretty much what I do all day, and I get pretty lucky for the most part. You kind of have to know where the load's situated in the bucket and where it's weighing. And we'll cut him off there just in case. All right, Dan, you're good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good weekend.
You too.
That's probably a good guess. Store that. It's almost just like a feeling, like it's hard to explain. I'd like to sit here and say that you put the scale on the number that it's supposed to be. If they want 27, then you just take it to 27 and that's that. But the scale's off by anywhere from, you know, half a ton to an entire ton in the morning, and then sometimes, depends on where it's at in the bucket, it's right on, like dead ass on the money. There's a lot. It's easy to make a mistake, certainly. Very easy.
148, 689, I got sand on.
Very easy. I mean, it's no fault of the other guy, to be honest with you. When I first got in here, I had one overload on my first day and then 3 on the very next day trying to figure out the scales, and then once I kind of got a feel for it, it was a lot better. But yeah, it seems like the sand consistently runs half a ton heavier than what I put in. So if I put in 26.5, they read out at 27. And the gravel, the wash stone, it reads a little more accurately, but it's still not, it ain't what it should be, certainly. So I think this is Tyler, I think it said his name was. $25.3, we'll put 1 ton on him. 26.3 and 5, that's 26.8, should be pretty close. Here, we'll just stab the pile here. We'll see, yep, money. probably could do a little bit more, but to be honest with you, this is his last load. And as long as it's close, it should be fine. I'd rather get out of here with no overloads, to be honest with you. Alrighty, sir, you're good to go. You have yourself a good weekend.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you. And the Kyle's here for the 8s. Again, you come into the pile, lift up on the arms, and then rack back. What that does is when you lift up on the arms, you put down pressure on your front tires, which creates traction and allows you to go into the pile deeper. You can see this hole I've got here that the other guy was digging to freaking China. I tried to fill it in today with 8s and back drag it and do a bunch of stuff, but with the amount of water in here, nothing compacts. It just splooges out. I can't get it to stay. Needs to dry up. And that's good. Like to be able to roll to the truck in second gear. Sometimes
135, 336. I've got stand on for Plain City.
it's hard for the driver to kind of understand. Number one, if you're in a semi dump, it ain't like you can just come in here and maneuver around. So I don't hold anything against them. You want to make it as easy as possible for these guys. But sometimes they can be real not lined up to the pile very well, so that it makes it kind of difficult to reach the trailer. Whereas, you know, if they were in a dump truck, I probably would be, I try to explain it a little bit better to them, or at least move them more, but as it is, I just kind of deal with it. That's probably too much. We'll send him out at 27.9. He wants 28.5. But last load of the day, at least for him, probably to just go out a little bit light than it would be to get overloaded. So front, back, middle, or in his case, since he's got a very low profile frameless trailer, we do front, back, one third of the way down the trailer, and then the rest of it over the back here. All right, Kyle, you're good to go. Have a good weekend, man.
Thank you, you too. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hopefully that puts him over 28. I'm sure that it will. But so we got one more truck coming in. Should be here relatively soon. They got the old Matsu in. As you see over there, so the idea of what they're doing is up there on the ridge that you probably can't see, but at that tree line over there, that used to be elevated up to the level of the corn. That's that green in the background. And so what they're doing is they're digging that all down to, I mean, we're not digging gold, so it's not pay dirt, but the gravel layer. And so they're stripping the topsoil off, loading it in the haul trucks, running the haul trucks down there, and then that's all reclaimed. I think Brenda said she's got it. She's not calling for me. And so then that's all reclaim right here. What they're doing is they were dumping it off the end there, and then the dozer was pushing it off. And now the Rusty, the dozer operator, he's a pretty good dozer operator. He knows what he's doing. So, but he's got it such a way that, I mean, that was like straight down. That was like a very, very steep. It was as steep as the lighter stuff right there. And he kept pushing. So now the haul trucks run from down there all the way down, then they back down that little haul road that they have right there, and then dump it off over in the trees. So they're gonna reclaim all that area right there. All right, well, those three guys made it out. Miss Brenda, what did those last trucks come in at?
The H was 27.95 and the stand was 26.19.
What was Dan?
The 57 was 26.23.
Alrighty, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think it's no big deal. There was two sand trucks, and then the 8s right there, Kyle. So the other sand he left kind of light. 26.2, wanted 27. He'll be all right. So the company wants it within a ton of what they ask for. So, and I like to keep them within half a ton, you know, just so I can, just kind of makes me look like I know what I'm doing. But everybody's happy when nobody has to dump off. It's like the mowing guys here. So earlier in the week I got all this stripped off. Which, truthfully, you can tell, like, you might not be able to see it, but you can see that's all gravel right there. This is exactly where that enormous mountain of 304 was, right here in this corner. So got it stripped. I got a little bit left to do, but it's fine for now. Coming up on 3:35. Hopefully that guy gets here soon. So check something here real fast. All right. Well, that's your Friday mind update. One of the new guys that got hired, he quit. I guess him and the foreman, they had words over him running the dozer. So he walked from way back there at the reclaim all the way around the corn all the way, and then got in his truck and rolled out, and he ain't been back since. So you'll have that, I guess. But yep, all right, well, hope you guys have a good weekend.